In the bustling spaceport of New Arcadia, where starships docked like swans on a moonlit lake and the air thrummed with the vibrant hum of interstellar commerce, an unusual scene unfolded. It was here, amidst the cacophony of alien dialects and the sharp scent of ionized fuel, that Eli Jackson found himself face to face with an entity utterly unlike any he had encountered before. Eli, a cargo ship pilot originally from Earth, was known for his rugged good looks and easy charm, attributes that served him well both in barter negotiations and in less formal tavern gatherings. On this particular day, however, his focus was drawn not to lucrative contracts or convivial companionship, but to a lone figure huddled in the shadow of a docking bay. She was strikingly peculiar in appearance, with luminescent skin that shimmered with an ethereal glow, casting prismatic light onto the grimy metal walkway. Her eyes, large and expressive, were the color of distant nebulas, and her slender body was draped in a tattered cloak that seemed inadequate against the cold drift of space. As Eli approached, drawn by a mix of curiosity and concern, she looked up, her gaze piercing him with an intensity that bordered on desperation. "Please," she said, her voice a melodic whisper that resonated with a haunting echo. "You must help me. I seek sanctuary and, dare I say it, companionship." Eli stopped in his tracks, taken aback by her directness. "Sanctuary from what? And why me?" he asked, his tone a mixture of skepticism and intrigue. "I am Vara," she began, her voice gaining strength as she spoke. "I come from a world not charted on any of your maps, a planet where my kind is persecuted for our abilities. I can sense the essence of beings, their emotions, their truths. This gift, however, has marked me for death among my people." Eli's interest deepened. The plight of an alien being sought for her inherent abilities was something straight out of the adventure tales he had grown up on. Yet here it was, playing out in the stark reality of the spaceport. "Why seek me out, though?" Eli questioned further, his practical mind needing to understand the connection. "Because I have seen your essence, Eli Jackson," Vara replied, her eyes locked onto his with an unblinking intensity. "You possess a rare combination of courage and kindness. You are my best hope." Her plea tugged at Eli's heart, a heart that had grown somewhat jaded from too many years among the stars. The thought of turning away a being in such dire need was antithetical to the very core of who he was. "What kind of companionship are you asking for?" Eli asked cautiously, aware that interstellar alliances could be fraught with complications. "Marriage," Vara stated plainly, her voice unflinching. "It would grant me the rights and protections under the laws of the United Planets as your spouse. It is the only way I can be safe." The word marriage hung in the air like a starship suspended in orbit. Eli was no stranger to unexpected twists in his journeys, but this was beyond anything he had ever imagined. "Let's sit down and talk this through," Eli finally said, gesturing towards a nearby tavern known for its discretion and quiet corners. "There's a lot we need to discuss." As they walked side by side, Eli couldn't help but feel the weight of the universe on his shoulders, but also, strangely, a flicker of excitement at the adventure that might lie ahead. This chance meeting could indeed be the beginning of an entirely new chapter in his life, one that might steer him through uncharted territories of both space and the heart. At a secluded table in the shadowy tavern, Vara and Eli sat across from each other, the soft glow of bioluminescent lamps casting an otherworldly light on their conversation. Vara's eyes, reflecting the kaleidoscope of starlight from the port windows, were pools of cosmic mystery that seemed to draw Eli in deeper with every passing moment. "I must confess," Vara started, her voice a soft murmur over the hum of muted conversations around them. "This isn't just about safety for me. I've wandered the galaxies alone, always hiding, never belonging. To connect with someone, to truly belong somewhere, is something I've longed for more deeply than safety." Eli listened intently, his usual easygoing demeanor replaced by a seriousness that matched the gravity of their discussion. "And marriage to someone you've just met is how you see achieving this?" he asked, not with judgment but with an earnest attempt to understand her plight. It is not just a matter of convenience or survival, Vara explained. Your essence resonates with sincerity and a profound kindness. It's rare, even among the stars. I believe we could be something more than allies of circumstance, but I also understand if this is too much to ask. The concept of marrying for convenience was not alien to Eli. Such arrangements were common in the frontier colonies. However, the notion of binding his life to someone he barely knew, an alien with powers beyond his understanding, was daunting. How do your abilities work? Eli shifted the subject, needing to grasp the full scope of who Vara was beyond her needs. Vara paused, considering her explanation. I can feel and sometimes see the emotions of others as colors and lights. Your aura, for example, is a vibrant mix of blues and greens, signifying a spirit of adventure and a generous heart. Eli chuckled lightly. Sounds like you have me figured out better than I do myself. But if we were to do this, to really enter into a partnership, we'd need to be open with each other. No secrets, no sudden surprises. Agreed. Vara nodded, her relief evident even as her face remained an enigmatic mask. And there's more I would share with you. My people are pursued by the Conclave, a regime that sees our abilities as a threat to their power. Marrying you might keep me safe from them, but it could also draw you into the cosmic fray. Eli leaned back, absorbing the weight of her words. The risk was significant. The Conclave was a name known across many systems for their ruthless pursuit of control. To entangle himself with Vara was to paint a target on his back. But you believe we could make a good team? Eli finally said, locking eyes with her. I do, Vara responded without hesitation. More than that, I believe we could find in each other a kinship that transcends convenience. Eli mulled over her words, his gaze drifting towards the port where ships from countless worlds came and went. Each vessel was a bearer of stories, of connections between the stars. Maybe, just maybe, this was his story calling him to a new connection. All right, Eli said, extending his hand across the table. Let's take it one step at a time. First, we'll see about getting you the protection you need. Then, we'll figure out the rest together. Vara's hand met his, her touch cool and electrifying, like the pulse of a distant nebula. In that handshake, an unspoken agreement was forged under the watchful gaze of the cosmos, a partnership that might just change the course of their destinies. In the days that followed, Eli and Vara moved with deliberate caution, weaving through the bureaucratic tapestries that governed spaceport legalities. The complexity of interstellar marriage laws was daunting, necessitating a careful dance around cultural nuances and legal stipulations from dozens of planetary jurisdictions. During their frequent visits to the legal archives and consultation rooms, Eli grew increasingly impressed by Vara's resilience and sharp intellect. She navigated the intricacies of legal documents with a finesse that betrayed her outer fragility, revealing a core of steel that Eli found both intriguing and admirable. As they delved deeper into the arrangements, the ghost of the Conclave's threat loomed ever-present. Vara had explained that the Conclave wielded their power through a network of spies and enforcers, capable of reaching far across the galaxy. Their influence often corrupted otherwise peaceful dealings, making every step in the legal process a potential risk. To counteract this, Eli introduced Vara to his trusted network of friends and allies within New Arcadia. Among them was Tess, a seasoned navigator with connections to the more secretive channels of information and resources. With her help, they secured back-channel communications and discreet meetings with officials sympathetic to their cause. One evening, in a dimly lit room at the back of a nondescript warehouse on the edge of the spaceport, Eli, Vara, and Tess gathered around a holographic display of star maps and legal statutes. Tess, we need a solid plan if we're going to keep ahead of the Conclave, Eli stated, his voice low and urgent. Tess, her eyes scanning the flickering projections, nodded. I've got a few tricks up my sleeve. There's a loophole in the United Planet's marital laws. If you declare your union in the outer sectors, under the flag of exploration and settlement, the process is expedited and less scrutinized. But moving the ceremony to an outer sector could expose us more directly to the Conclave, Vara interjected, her voice laced with concern. Their patrols are frequent in those less governed spaces. That's true, Tess agreed. But it's also easier to disappear in the vastness of uncharted space. We could set up a decoy, lead them on a false trail while you two solidify your bond in a different location. Eli considered this, his mind racing through scenarios. We'd need a ship, one fast enough to outrun any Conclave scouts, and equipped to mask its signature. I can arrange that, Tess said, a sly smile playing on her lips. I know someone who owes me a favor. They can lend us a stealth runner, top of the line. It's small but fast and silent, perfect for your needs. Vara looked between Eli and Tess, her expression one of mixed fear and determination. What about after the marriage? The Conclave won't stop just because we're legally bonded. We'll have to think long-term, Eli responded, taking her hand. Build alliances, gather support. There are plenty of factions out there who aren't fond of the Conclave's dominance. We could offer them something in return for protection. As the plans solidified, the trio worked late into the night, their strategy taking shape amidst a flurry of data streams and encrypted communications. It was a risky endeavor, fraught with danger at every turn, but with each other's strengths to rely on, a sliver of hope began to carve through the uncertainty. They were not merely forging a bond of convenience or seeking refuge. They were igniting a subtle rebellion, stitched together by shared fates and a common cause against a far-reaching tyranny. Under the cover of darkness, with only the distant twinkling of starlight to guide them, Eli, Vara, and Tess made their way to the docking bay where the stealth runner awaited. The ship, a sleek vessel with contours designed to deflect radar and sensor detection, sat quietly, almost invisible against the backdrop of the star-filled sky. Tess led the way, her footsteps light and sure. This ship's name is the Ghostwing. It's been modified with the latest cloaking tech. Not even the most advanced Conclave scanners should be able to pick us up once we're airborne. Eli looked over the ship with a professional eye. Impressive, he remarked, running his hand along the smooth hull. This might just work. Vara, standing slightly apart, watched the exchange with an intensity that belied her calm exterior. The weight of their actions, the danger of the path they were embarking upon, pressed down on her with a gravity she could almost physically feel. Once inside the ship, Tess powered up the systems, her fingers dancing over the controls with practiced ease. The cabin lit up, a soft hum filling the air as the engines came to life, their sound muffled by the advanced silencing technology. We should reach the outer sectors in a few hours, Tess announced as she plotted their course. From there, we'll jump to hyperspace, head for the rendezvous point. I've arranged a small ceremony there, everything you need to make this official. Vara took a seat next to Eli, her expression solemn. Eli, are you sure about this? It's not just about evading the Conclave now. We're about to weave our lives together to truly bind our fates. This is irreversible. Eli turned to her, his eyes steady. I know, and yes, I'm sure. Whatever comes, we face it together. That's what partners do. As the ship slipped silently out of the docking bay, evading the routine patrols and surveillance networks, a tense quiet settled over the trio. Each was lost in their thoughts, considering the magnitude of what was to come. Hours later, as they approached the outer sectors, the vastness of uncharted space unfolded before them. It was a region where few dared to travel, a realm of rogue planets and unaligned systems. Tess broke the silence as she initiated the hyperspace jump. Hold on, this might get a bit rough. With a sudden lurch, the ship was thrust forward, streaking through the cosmos at unimaginable speeds. Stars turned to lines of light as they crossed thresholds no ordinary vessel could. Arriving at their destination, a remote space station nestled in the shadow of a gas giant, the mood aboard the Ghostwing shifted. The reality of their mission, the imminent marriage, and the potential consequences were now palpably close. The station was sparsely populated, a way station for drifters and those looking to disappear. Eli and Vara disembarked, stepping onto the docking platform where a small group awaited, friends of Tess, allies in their cause, and a registered union officiant. As they stood before the officiant, the cold metal underfoot and the distant hum of the station's life support systems the only witnesses, Eli and Vara exchanged vows. The words were simple, but their promise was profound, binding them not just in law but in spirit. With the formalities concluded, Tess approached, a grin spreading across her face. "Congratulations, you two. Now let's get the hell out of here before anyone realizes what we've done." Their return to the ship was swift, the ceremony a brief interlude in their greater saga. As they set their course back into the depths of space, Eli and Vara sat side by side, their hands linked, a united front against the challenges that lay ahead. Their union was now not only a shield, but a declaration of defiance, a shared commitment to carve out a space of their own amid the chaos of the galaxies. The Ghost Wing's return trip was shrouded in a palpable tension, each member of the crew hyper-aware of the potential pursuit by the Conclave. Vara, now Eli's wife in both name and spirit, spent hours monitoring the ship's sensors, her earlier apprehension replaced by a focused determination. Tess navigated through less-traveled star lanes, weaving a path cloaked in the cosmic dust and debris of nebula, making their trail as hard to follow as possible. "We'll make a few random jumps just to throw off anyone who might be on our tail," she explained, adjusting their trajectory with swift, precise movements. As they journeyed, Eli took to studying the star maps, planning their next moves. The universe was vast, but the Conclave's reach was vast too. "We need allies," he mused aloud, not for the first time. "Someone out there has to be willing to stand up against the Conclave's tyranny." Vara nodded in agreement. "There are rumors of a coalition forming in the Veil sector, rebels and outcasts, united against common enemies. Perhaps we could lend our strength to theirs, gain protection in the process." Eli considered this, his mind racing through potential contacts and old friends who might know more. "Once we're in a safe harbor, I'll reach out to some contacts, see what I can dig up about this coalition." The days passed with the Ghost Wing slipping through the cosmos like a phantom, its presence barely registered by the occasional trader or mining ship they encountered. At each stop, under Tess's guidance, they scrubbed the ship's external identifiers, making the stealth runner even harder to track. Finally, docking at a secluded station on the edge of the Veil sector, Eli made contact with an old comrade, Kale, who had left the mainstream space lanes years ago in search of freedom from the oppressive regimes that controlled much of the galaxy. Kale's image flickered to life on their communication screen, his features marked by the harsh realities of fringe life. "Eli! It's been cycles since we last crossed paths. To what do I owe the pleasure?" Eli wasted no time. "I'm looking for information on a coalition I heard might be forming out here. Something about standing up to the Conclave." Kale's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of caution in his gaze. "Ah, you're treading in dangerous waters, my friend. But yes, there's talk. A gathering of sorts, people who've had enough of the Conclave's control. But they're wary, secretive. You'll need to prove your worth, maybe even your identity and intentions." "We're prepared to do that," Eli replied, glancing at Vara, who nodded back with a steely resolve. "All right," Kale sighed, his expression softening. "I can get you an introduction, but from there, it's on you to make your case. I'll send you the coordinates. Be careful, Eli. This isn't the kind of crowd that takes kindly to deception or half-truths." With the coordinates received, they set a course for the rendezvous, a derelict space platform rumored to have been abandoned after a catastrophic reactor failure decades ago. Now it served as a perfect meeting place for those who sought to avoid prying eyes. As the Ghost Wing approached the coordinates, the silhouette of the old platform emerged from the shadow of a nearby moon, its structure vast and looming. It was here, in this forgotten fragment of space, that Eli and Vara would take their next steps toward finding their place in the resistance against the Conclave. Their arrival was quiet, the platform's docking bay enveloped in darkness, save for the flicker of torches lighting the way. Stepping onto the platform, Eli and Vara were met by figures cloaked in the anonymity of the fringe, their faces obscured, their postures wary but curious. "This is it," Eli whispered to Vara, squeezing her hand gently. "Let's show them who we are and what we stand for." Together they walked into the dim light, ready to face whatever this new alliance might bring. Their future unwritten, but their resolve unyielding. The dimly lit corridors of the derelict platform echoed with the sounds of hushed conversations and the distant hum of machinery. Eli and Vara walked side by side, flanked by the silent sentinels who had greeted them. Their path led them to a large circular chamber at the heart of the station, where representatives of the coalition had gathered. A tall figure stepped forward, their face hidden beneath a hood. "Eli, Jackson, and Vara, I presume," the figure said, their voice deep and resonant. "I am Draxon, spokesperson for this assembly. You come seeking our aid?" Eli nodded. "Yes, we need protection from the Conclave and are willing to offer our skills and resources in return. We believe in the same cause, freedom from tyranny." Draxon studied them for a moment before speaking. "Prove it. Actions speak louder than words in these parts." Before Eli could respond, an alarm blared through the chamber. "Conclave ships approaching," a voice shouted from a nearby console. Panic rippled through the assembly, but Draxon raised a hand, calling for silence. "We must act swiftly. Eli, Vara, this is your chance to show your worth. Will you help us defend the platform?" Eli and Vara exchanged a glance. There was no hesitation. "Tell us what to do," Eli said. The coalition sprang into action, a well-oiled machine despite their ragtag appearance. Eli and Vara were directed to the control room, where they could assist with the station's defenses. Tess, who had stayed aboard the Ghost Wing, coordinated with them via comms, providing real-time updates on the Conclave's movements. As the Conclave ships closed in, the platform's automated turrets came to life, firing a barrage of plasma bolts. Eli manned one of the weapon consoles, his fingers flying over the controls, targeting the lead ship. Vara, using her abilities, coordinated with the gunners, sensing the enemy pilot's intentions and relaying crucial information. The battle was fierce and chaotic. The Conclave ships, sleek and heavily armed, bore down on the platform, but the coalition fighters, spurred by their collective desire for freedom, fought with a ferocity born of desperation and hope. In the midst of the conflict, Tess's voice crackled over the comm. "Eli, Vara, they've deployed boarding parties. They're trying to breach the lower levels." Eli turned to Draxon. "We need to stop them from getting inside. Vara and I will handle the boarding parties." Draxon nodded, admiration in his eyes. "Go. We'll hold them off here." Eli and Vara raced through the corridors, heading for the lower levels where the Conclave soldiers were attempting to breach the platform. The sound of metal clashing against metal grew louder as they approached. Drawing their weapons, they prepared for the confrontation. The breach door exploded inward, and Conclave soldiers poured through, their armor glinting ominously in the flickering lights. Eli fired his blaster, taking down the first wave, while Vara used her empathic abilities to sow confusion among the attackers, making them hesitate and falter. The battle was intense, each moment a test of their resolve and skill. Eli fought with a combination of brute strength and tactical precision, while Vara's movements were fluid and almost dance-like, her awareness of the soldiers' emotions giving her a predictive edge. Despite the Conclave's superior numbers, Eli and Vara held their ground, their synergy and determination turning the tide. As the last of the Conclave soldiers fell, an uneasy silence settled over the lower levels. Breathing heavily, Eli turned to Vara, a mixture of relief and exhaustion on his face. "We did it." Vara nodded, her eyes fierce with the lingering intensity of battle. "For now. But this is just the beginning." They returned to the control room, where the coalition fighters were celebrating their hard-won victory. Draxon approached them, his hood pulled back to reveal a weathered but proud face. "You've proven yourselves today. You're welcome among us." Eli and Vara shared a look, a silent understanding passing between them. They had found their place, not just as fugitives seeking refuge, but as active participants in a larger struggle for freedom. As the coalition gathered to discuss their next steps, Eli felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had stood together against the Conclave and won, but the road ahead was long and fraught with peril. Yet with Vara by his side and allies to fight alongside, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the flickering light of the platform, among newfound friends and allies, Eli and Vara began to see the outlines of a new future, a future shaped by their shared resolve and the enduring hope for a galaxy free from oppression.